tutorial so far. And today, I have two things that I'm allowed to show you. One is going to be a quick run-through of our web platform for our AI setup, setting up a project, showing you some of the features that we initially started with. In the beginning, this was intended to be a compliance suite, meaning that as a developer, you would have the ability to analyze your project using our agentic AI, and we would make sure that you're able to comply across regions and also across platforms without any issues. And as an add-on to that, we added the ability for you to actually use our cloud platform to build all of your projects simultaneously, which is useful for a lot of people, especially companies that don't have a huge team to take care of that stuff, right? So I came in not sure where to start, if I was going to start with the presentation or the video, but you guys can decide. Would you prefer to watch the video? Because the video actually has some narration, and then at the end I'm going to explain two of the versions that I'm allowed to show you. I've been restricted from showing you what we've actually got in our latest.
Let's start presentation.
That's okay. Start with the presentation. Okay, let's go. So, I'm sure you guys all see that. Syntari Genesis doesn't talk about your project. It works inside of it, right? And I think I have to preface this a bit before we get into it. So, before you're able to actually use Genesis, you have to analyze your project and set up your project. And we support Perforce and Git at the moment. But whatever tools you're using, we're able to quickly integrate your VCS and also your custom engines, and you'll see that in a minute. So it's not a chatbot that bolts onto your docs pages or is working from Allura or something menial like this. It reads, it changes, it builds, and it can see the assets and content inside your project. It's your hands and eyes in the editor, and so far we don't know any other AI tools that are doing the feature set that we have in Genesis right now. There are a couple of companies that have similar features, but not quite like what we've done. Okay, so from 1 prompt to 20 internal actions. Here we have an example. The user types, why isn't my character jumping? And some of my game design team is actually here, and they could probably vouch for this. That's something that they would love to be able to ask their project when things are going wrong. And for all of the developers in the room that have made games or actually work on games, I'm sure you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. And one day it's working, and then you need to tweak something because somebody wants it to be a bit different, just a little bit different, and now your character is not jumping. And wouldn't it be great if you could have a tool that could assess the situation and check all your file dependencies and fix what's wrong with it? Well, now you can. So it's a persistent live connection, like a phone call. Don't think of it like an email, right? Every prompt is persistent. For example, you could actually prompt the system 5 times, and it will set an array of sub-agents to work on all of the prompts that you've actually asked it to do, which definitely is not happening with any other service or app at the moment. So the tools execute live, and I think a lot of people probably like the idea of that. Hi guys, welcome. I think a lot of people like the idea of that, especially developers and technical designers, to see that the changes being made to the project are actually happening in real time. So their blueprints are popping up, and they're seeing nodes pop up, and connections being made, and then functionality actually being integrated and checked, which is kind of crazy to see. Just that alone, depending on how complex the function or feature is, can take hours, and in some instances, days. Now, you can get it done in 15 minutes or less. Okay. Important. So you see everything word by word. This is probably a curse because it's a lot of content when it gets very, very complex, right? So you'll see a lot of output. We're still debating how we want to handle that, or maybe we give the users the option to actually, turn it off and just have a progress bar or something. I'm sure it will get stressful for those of you that are like me who need to read every single thing that pops up in our log. So, yeah. Okay, so Genesis already knows your project, right? This is the most important part. One of the early risk elements that we had was context, right? Like, how do we manage context? You know, games can be up to 170 gigabytes big in production, or even larger. Don't ask me to explain how our technical director did it, but he did, and now we have real persistence, right? We're context aware enough that you can leave the project, go back to it, have made changes outside of Genesis, and Genesis will find those changes and make sure that you're aware of them as you're progressing through your project with Genesis. Matched intelligence, so right now we're using the Google Vertex AI setup, right? And we are trying to, well, not trying to, we are using a tiered matched intelligence behavior, meaning that we don't assign the same AI for each task, right? Because it's unnecessary. So for simple tasks, if you were a human just typing into Gemini or OpenAI, you wouldn't use the most advanced model to, you know, ask where McDonald's is, right? You would use a light version, and that's specifically how we're handling it. So the AI determines how difficult the request is, and then decides what to do, and it actually creates a plan for you that you can see and read as well. So we had an accidental feature come across, right? Because we developed this to work on the web. And we didn't realize that we weren't selling one of the most key selling points for the entire project, was that you don't have to be in your office to work on your project using Genesis and Syntari AI, right? So what is this great for? This is great for remote teams that have a hard time syncing or finding that central time period, right? Or if you're sick and you're not able to get into the office, as long as your machine is running or your remote environment is running, you can still interact with your project. Later in the presentation, you'll see we do a lot of clever things to make sure that you're not integrating or asking it to do things that don't make sense for your project, right? Security and safety is of the utmost important. We want developers to trust our product. One of the things that we want to bring forward on the remote thing as well, right? So, how many of you are actual game developers versus are outsourced? Any game developers here? 2? You raise your hands, you guys are game developers. Okay, on average, how long is your sprint in any particular project? 2 weeks. 2 week sprints, yeah? Okay. Why do you do 2 week sprints?
Because you can achieve something and still it's not very long.
You can achieve something. The real reason is that your producer and your project manager want to make sure nobody's fucking up the project. Bottom line, right? Otherwise, we would just keep going. Most developers we would just keep going. We would probably follow Confluent, some of us, and then probably some of us wouldn't. Engineers probably wouldn't. They don't like to read the Bible. Store that, because we're going to get to another feature that we're adding to our setup. So, like we talked about, remote work is possible, right? So if your editor is open, Genesis is active, you can connect from anywhere in the world and ask it about your project. Every role is covered, right? One of the features that I'll bring forward later that we actually have in our immediate pipeline is going to make this all make a lot more sense to you in a minute. But for an example here, a producer can query a session. A producer can check the state of an open editor session without interrupting the person it belongs to. Meaning that, for example, if Peter wanted to check if one of his developers that was supposed to finish a task or implement a task or feature a week ago, if it's finished or not, when it got done, when it was committed. So basically all of the information that you would get from your versioning tool, you get it in a prompt request. You don't have to open another app, you don't have to ping the person that is responsible for it, you don't have to harass a project manager, you just get your result, right? Branching worries, we try to alleviate those as best as we can. We're currently working on our team-focused behavior, which we're going to get to in just a second. So, earlier I was discussing this with I think it was you guys. This is kind of designed for everyone, right? And I don't think we paint that picture well enough, so I made sure that I added this slide. This is for engineers, artists, game designers, audio designers, narrative designers, producers, project managers, everybody in your team, right? So We were smart enough to integrate a drop mechanism into our chat box, which exists inside the editor, the editor plugin, as well as the web version as well. And I think, yeah, and you're going to see in the video that you can use both simultaneously. You can prompt inside of the editor and then see in real time what's happening in the web view. Maybe a bit overkill, but you have that feature if you want it. So, just a little bit of context why this is here. For example, if you're an audio designer, right, and you have some new WAV files to drop into the project, you can drop them in your web version and then ask it to integrate that audio the way it was intended, right? So it's going to ask you a few things, naming convention, it's going to confirm the use case for it, if there's an asset that it's supposed to be used with specifically, or an animation or a behavior, it's going to make sure that it's going to where it's supposed to go. Same with artists and designers, if designers have content to drop into the software. And I just explained my next slide, so I'm just gonna keep going. So yeah, only after explicit sign-off does Genesis touch the project. Nothing happens automatically unless you say go. And even then, it's gonna go to a specific branch. The very last slide, why I put it in the end, is a different story, but only one person sets up Syntari with your project. Right? Adding additional users is automated as well, so you don't need to have an engineer come and onboard a new person to the project. Syntari will actually handle every step of that for you, right? So it's as simple as a lead saying, okay, here's inputting the email and inputting the branch that this person works in, or the team branch that this person works in, and then pressing go. That new user gets an email for the things that they need to have installed and set up, and Syntari will handle the rest. So that frees up a couple of people's time for bigger teams, right? Okay, so what's in our branch now? This month we're finishing up our Jira bug reporting behavior and our Confluence digestion, right? Although we've kind of solved the context issues that we had early on, not kind of, we did, we thought how cool would it be to have Confluence be a living space, right? Because everybody's adding all of their information, designs, technical design, etc. And for producers, their production plan content in their Confluence. So we figured out how to digest Confluence, and then also we figured out how to modify Confluence externally using Syntari. And not only Confluence, Jira as well. So we've got a automated bug reporting feature built into Syntari Genesis, which allows users, once they've analyzed their project, to submit and report a bug to their Jira project, right? And that bug or issue will be assigned to the person who is the user of the user who submitted it, right? And it'll avoid dupes, because nobody likes duplicates, right? Okay. So our team context flow, this is our role-aware behavior, right? And like I told you before, the team context flow is kind of a big feature. We understand that the team dynamic is very important. So along with your versioning tool, plus Syntari Genesis and the team context flow, you'll be based in a really, really organized ecosystem, right? So for example, if I, as a audio engineer, integrated some audio, and a production manager or producer was responsible for that sprint or pipeline for that, they would immediately get alerted on Slack or Discord or whatever you're using. And they would be presented with clickable receipts, right? Would lead you to several places, probably your Confluence and Jira, depending on what the issue actually is, and then also you would be led to okay. Sorry guys, I had way too much coffee before I came up here. It's like my third cup, all right. Okay, so in our backlog, custom engine support, that's not really a backlog. We haven't had any requests to integrate any custom engines, but we've built this from the very beginning to be as modular as possible so that we could easily integrate custom engines. And when I say custom engine, I mean custom engine. So you could be using Anvil or I don't know. Some companies use their own built engines. I think Peter, for example, his group uses their own engine. That's really handy for you guys. And if we have to do manual work for that, that's a 3-day turnaround, just FYI. Yeah, so right now we're testing and we're also in our concept phase for our own internal project, right? And the whole logic here is that we're dog fooding our AI. And I'm not going to touch on the privacy stuff, but we don't use your data. We don't use your intellectual data for training our AI, never. We don't store your data, we don't use your data. Okay, in our end of next month due date, we actually developed a sort of self-healing backend, right? So every 6 hours, the system checks itself for any anomalies, errors, or user-reported issues even, and it tries to handle them on its own up to a certain priority level, meaning it could be quite low priority. It should be quite low priority if it automates the fix, but it doesn't do what we don't want it to do. So it's not like in fact, it goes to our dev branch. So we see these changes and we approve them or we disapprove them, and that helps us get past the actually needing customer support or engineers to field customer support feedback and tickets. Okay, so one person sets it up, everyone else just shows up, and we talked about that. Yeah, so most AI tools make individual developers faster. We wanted to make the entire team faster, and that's specifically how it's designed. I encourage everyone to sign up and send me a message directly. I'm happy to give everybody access to our current version. I think you guys will enjoy using it for a bit. And even those that don't have experience, I challenge you to download Unreal and then give it a try and see what you can get done without any game design knowledge or implementation knowledge or integration knowledge or blueprint knowledge or coding knowledge. Yeah? Okay, so thank you. If you want to learn more, you can visit syntari.dev. And now I'll play a video. How much time do I have?
10 minutes.
10 minutes, perfect. Okay, so now I'm going to play a video. My technical director is going to be narrating this, so I will stop talking. And you guys, please enjoy the video. I will only talk at the end because at the end there are two things. There are two examples of the Syntari Genesis actually orchestrating inside Unreal. Okay, thank you.
Well, you through the process of
It's not on the screen.
as you create a project, what to do.
Wait, why?
It's,
First, let's
you have
create
a standard
project.
screen.
We can create a project using GitHub or using Perforce. But let's jump on when you use Perforce. Let's connect. This is a demo server. You have to put in your company credentials. Okay. Here it is. After
full screen.
entering the server, it will check for connectivity. Yes, it's reachable, and then username and password. Let me copy the password here. And after verify, it will upload the demo for you. You can select whatever you want. Or select this and connect. After connecting, it will actually fetch the flash broker, and you can browse it and make sure you select the right decode. Connect. Create. Alright, here is our new project. Let's go in here and take a look at it. We have 5 main features. We have analysis, we have the build, we have the localization, AI assistant, and the result. First, let's talk about the analysis. Okay, analysis, this was working. So analysis is the process of taking all your files on a repository or a decode and send it to AI to analyze the text, the images, the assets, the audio, and the AI will like score the project based on some factor, and it can offer some really good insight to know what is really going on with the project. Does it comply with the platform, or does it have any high severity security risk? This will run, and let's see if we can wait for it to finish. Result. We can see the issues. We can support the severity. We have the highest one here. We have the medium one, and we have the low severity. So you can look at the issues and fix it yourself, or you can actually use AI assistant. Here it is. This is the AI assistant. So let me create a new chat to there. No, what do we want to ask? First, let's just ask it to hello, tell me unrelated results. Maybe that is a good start. The AI assistant
This is
and the ability to use tools to traverse and have the context of the project. It can access the files. So here we have some insight and we have severity. Let's ask it about tell me about the severity issues. Okay, let's wait for it to think a little bit. Oh yes, we have the highest one here. Let's see what it says. Unoptimized physics calculation causing factor during collision checks. This is high severity, right? Multiple learning system with it is. And it's even recommend fixed orders, implement LOD, use break learning where possible, and profile light contributing to frame time. Okay, so we can go ahead and fix that, but we don't. Let's talk about another feature. We have the build feature here. So after fixing, after analyzing, you can. Oh wait. Let's go back to see if app analysis has done. No, it hasn't done. Just almost done. Okay, but when it's done, it's perfectly produced the same result as this one because they're identical project. I just created a new one for the demo only. So let's go back to the build. Here we have the build on purpose, right? So we have the change list. We have the configuration. You can select shipping or development based on what you want. And we have the build target. Unreal Engine usually work as a server and game target. You can build a game target, an editor target, or server target, right? But in this project, I haven't set up a server yet, so it doesn't show it here. But this is based on the actual project. Alright, you can build here. Let's just go ahead and click here, right? It's gonna start a build, and as soon as it starts, we can see some logs. Alright, we'll just let it build. Okay, on to the localization. You can select the language you want, or you can select the language you want on the settings here, and then go back to the localize. You can select the language, and after localized, localization, it will create another branch or stream on your depot or repository based on Git or what you are using. And that's it. It will look for the text in your code base, and it will determine if the text should be localized, and if it should be, it will localize and put it right there for you. Okay, you can click it here.
Okay, so I'm just gonna stop it really quick so I can explain what you're about to see next. So, as you can see, we're in Unreal, and we have our plugin working inside Unreal, and then also we have our web version working simultaneously. This is our first version, or our first pass at our in-editor orchestration functionality, and he's going to ask it to create some light scatter, very simple task. And yeah, I'm just gonna fast forward a bit so you guys aren't, so we can make sure we're on time. Okay, so he's asked the question, it's processing, it's going to execute. Okay, so you see it's added some lights. When we finished that, we were very happy. We thought it was the coolest thing ever. But the things that came next were a bit shocking, actually. So, and FYI, this is what I'm allowed to show you guys currently. Again, any of you who are interested in seeing can sign an NDA with us, and we're happy to demo what we have actually finished and what's fully functional now. I think you guys will be quite impressed. Okay, so it's going to turn nighttime, and now the lights are there. Yeah, it's pretty good. Thank you. I think it's cool. Okay, so in this next clip. Oh.
This is Syntari.
Oh, sorry guys. Wait, 1 second.
Processor. After you create a project, what to do with it?
One moment, sorry about that. Let me just make sure. Here we go. There. Okay, so I've edited over that video.
No finishing.
Huh?
No finishing with you and this is it.
No, so yeah, I'm the one who compiled this video. So what we did in the second video, I'll just tell you. So that in our V2, we were able to get it to affect lighting, and it worked. And also we asked it to do some scene orchestration. So we had a bunch of assets in our asset drawer, and we asked it to make us an FPS level, and it actually executed that quite successfully. And then we also asked it to play with some of our day and night settings. So we asked it to cycle through day and night in 30 seconds, and you would have seen that. If you want it, I will send it to you directly. I'm sorry that didn't come out in my edit, but yeah. And that's it. So, any questions?
Can you tell about in what stage of like productizing it? As I understand, you're developing the tool, but you said signing NDA, so it's probably not available publicly yet.
So we haven't made it public. We had a closed public version some time ago, but we blocked it. But we are turning it back on in a few weeks. And right now Genesis is done. We finished our final version. Obviously we're in bug fixing mode, and we have another feature that we're rolling out as well, which we're not announcing yet, along our pipeline stuff. And yeah, the entire analysis process works, our localization works, our cloud builds work, everything else works.
So when do you think people can come to your website and just register and start using it?
Yeah, we're going to open registration soon, but you won't be able to access it for a couple of weeks. If you're a studio that wants to have some early access, we're willing to talk about what we would call a design partnership, where maybe you have a litmus and we see if our tools are useful for you, depending on your development. And yeah, we're happy to do that before a fully released version. We're not going to be done for a few weeks.
So when you have fully released version, it means that then, in half a year, for example, people come and they register and start paying for using it.
So in 3 weeks, you'll be able to register and use it right away. Yeah. So we've already finished our Fab registration, and you'll be able to find it on Fab, for example, if you're using Unreal.
Okay.
Yeah. Anybody? Questions? Yeah.
Question. You said basically the data remains private on the future customers,
Yeah.
right? And the AI doesn't learn from the data. So I'm quite curious about how it learns, because if you don't use your customers' data to learn and improve the product, and how do you do it?
So that's a great question. Thank you for asking. That's a great question. So we don't really. So how we identify the assets that are in your project, right? We just need to know what they are, right? And once it identifies it as what it is, the naming convention is really all that matters. Is it is this an object? Is this an audio file, etc.? What we really care about is the prompt versus the success rate and what tools are being accessed by the AI. That's what we really care about, because we don't want the AI to, for example, call 87 tools or inspect 87 tools in Unreal just to change a DNX setting, for example. Yeah. Right. The rest of it is pretty simple. It's actually not as complex as we imagined it initially, and I feel like we're quite lucky that it wasn't. Right. We're not. So to make it a bit more simple, I think we don't generate art, right? We don't generate assets. We don't generate audio. We don't do any of that, right? We simply put things where they belong for the most part, right? And we inspect code and make sure that dependencies are working properly. The success rates are what we care about. We care about the proper use of tools and editors. So that's the data we use. Process data. Okay.
So I heard that you use Google Vertex.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so from what you have answered today here, so am I correct if I say that you use a strong foundation model without any fine-tuning or training in the data?
No. So we have training, right? And I think you would need to ask our technical director for a more concise answer for that. But yeah, basically all of the agents and sub-agents that are working are professional game developers, right?
So I'm just curious about the foundational model you use. Are you using existing models like maybe Gemini Bros or
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, because right now we're using them. We're in the Google startup ecosystem, so we've got a ton of free credits which help us develop. But yeah, we're using foundation.
And then, so how do you have a plan to deal with foundation model upgrade? Just
Absolutely.
Right now, your whole product stack work with Gemini Pro 3.1 is okay.
Yeah.
When we have 3.2, 3.3, and maybe some duplicates.
Yeah, we fully intend to do that, right? Right now we've developed this bootstrapped, right? We're not funded yet, and we've taken the time to build it how we wanted to build it, and yeah, we intend to develop our own model.
All right.
Yeah, variations of our own. Tom?
Yeah, so I'm not sure if I missed it, but do we need to have a machine to what
Genesis? Yeah. So if you're working on it remote, for example, and so I think a good example would be if you're working in a company that has remote days, and that on that remote day your company says that you can use this tool, you would then create a prompt as complex as you want, or several prompts as complex as you want, and just let the agents work and then walk away. But yeah, you would have to be running the editor, and Genesis would need to be connected to the web. Okay. All right. If that's it, thank you very much. much, guys. I appreciate your time. Thanks for listening.